words said in the aftermath are just too confusing. Now I spend my days watching you throw stones at someone who's already dead. And if this is the way we all begin, so how can I ask for any more?
Welcome back to the Stages of Minnesota. I missed you last week. I know. I should have called or texted. I hope you weren't too worried about me, and I hope no one thought one of the bumpities or spookables that kept showing up during the last episode's wrap-up got me. They didn't. I had intended to put something out last week, but I threw out my back on Halloween doing absolutely nothing. Welcome to Life After 50, where your body acts like your teenagers did 15 minutes into cleaning their rooms. Just takes a break from working. This is how bad it was. I had to call and cancel my Saturday evening show. That's not something I do lightly, and it was one I was really looking forward to. Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. But don't start lighting candles for me just yet. Thankfully, the awesome team at Theater Elysian were able to squeeze me in this past Thursday, and boy, am I glad they did. I'll share my thoughts on that show and what it has in common with Lizzie, the rock musical, which just closed at Open Eye Theater this past weekend. If you didn't get to Lizzie, first of all, it's your own fault. I told my family, my friends, my readers, and yes, you faithful viewers, to get tickets. Well, I have some fantastic news for those of you who waited too long and couldn't get in to see it. Lizzie will return to Open Eye Theater in October 2026, assuming the world is still here and that theater hasn't been outlawed. I think this one is probably safe, though. It's about a white person who gets away with murder, so it will probably get federal funding, as long as they don't read the script too closely. But again, I think we're safe. This is Trump's government, after all. I don't think there's a lot of reading going on. I can also confirm that the entire cast and the incredible band that backs them under the musical direction of the amazing Amanda Weiss will be returning. But enough about theater. Let's talk about my back some more. I spent the entire weekend in the only position I could tolerate, reclining on my couch. I was in pain and I didn't get out to the theater, but I did watch a ton of movies, probably more than I have in all the time since I started this show put together. So, if you are a glass half full kind of person, there you go. I'm feeling much better now, but if you see me out at a show and it looks like I just learned how to walk, don't worry. I'm simply not 100% yet. If you are a glass half empty kind of person, I did recover in time to attend the opening night of Purple Rain. What is being billed optimistically as pre-Broadway performances, this world premiere musical based on the film and album by Prince opened as it should have right here in Minneapolis. My prediction is it will close here as well. You probably know where this is going. Already, 3 days after posting my review, it is officially the most viewed review in the history of the Stages of Minnesota. The only thing to do is rip that Band-Aid off. So let's get to the reviews, and if it bleeds, it leads. So first up is Purple Pain. But before I dive in, here's the segment bumper to remind you of my promise. Whether it moves me to cheers or tears, puts me to sleep or gets me up on my feet, these are my Minnesota Honest reviews. Truthful, but not hurtful. If there was ever a show I wanted to love, it's Purple Rain. Prince is a Minneapolis legend, and premiering this new musical adaptation of his film and soundtrack here was the right decision. Unfortunately, that's where the good decisions ended. My print review was decidedly negative, but as will frequently happen with a little more time to reflect on it, my thoughts have become more fully formed, and I can say that my opinion has only gotten more negative. I don't like to be negative. I wish my most read review ever was a positive one. I'm glad that when I checked, the rest of the top 5 were all positive reviews. Here's the thing. I'm a teenager of the 80s, and as any other person my age will tell you, When we rewatch the hit movies of the 1980s, more often than not, you have at least a moment or two where you go, ooh, that did not age well. It usually revolves around things that the right would call us woke for cringing at, but the rest of us call matters of decency. I expected this musical adaptation to read the century and tone down some of the more overt misogyny. Instead, the authors doubled down on everything they should have excised from the story. They took out none of what they should have, and every addition they made to the plot is wildly wrong-headed, up to and including a completely unearned redemption for the kid. Let's start there. First off, I feel bad for Chris Collins, who steps into Prince's role. Collins is not a trained actor, and it's painfully obvious. He sings well enough and he can move. He has some great moments of choreography where you glimpse a little bit of the Purple One. But there's no denying that when it comes to performance, he doesn't have the skills to pull off the role. In his defense, I don't know how anyone could redeem the character of the kid given Brandon Jacobs-Jenkins' book for this musical. The fault also lies with the director and producers who put this young man into the show. Collins looks completely exhausted, and I wonder if anyone spared a thought for what putting an entire world premiere musical on his shoulders would do to him. I think everyone involved gave as much thought to his well-being as the character of the kid does to the people around him in this show. From the start, the kid is not just arrogant, he's completely unlikable. By Act 2, he essentially becomes a monster, where he's crossed into full-on misogynistic bully territory. After getting offended and angry at Apollonia for leaving him when all he did was hit her, how dare she? Like all weak men when faced with rejection, he decides to get revenge. During a televised performance at the First, he slut-shames her, calls her by her real name, which he knows she hates, and tells the abusive father through the camera, who he knows she ran away from home to escape, to come get his daughter. When everyone gets mad at him for this, he feels bad, not for what he did, but because nobody likes him. Then the show attempts a redemption arc, but it doesn't land. Out of the blue, one of his bandmates, and Lisa, an ex-bandmate who befriended and helped raise Apollonia up, come and forgive him, something they would only do because the writer wrote that they had to. Feeling bad for the wrong reasons at the end doesn't erase what he did to Apollonia, whose final scene makes her the butt of a reality TV joke. I felt my disbelief escalating during the whole Darling Nikki scene, and that final insult brought me to out-and-out disgust. This mean-spirited show rewards its bully and then joins in the mocking of his victim, a young, talented runaway dealing with childhood trauma. I know from the responses I've gotten and those who have also seen it that I've talked to that I'm not alone. But even before that, I knew that a lot of the audience realized they were not attending the next Tony-winning musical. This was a world premiere of a musical about Prince, our city's true claim to musical genius. The house should have been going crazy. In 2023, I attended a performance of the SpongeBob musical out at Lyric Arts in Anoka. It's a pretty small theater, seating a little over 200. But I thought I was at a Beatles concert. The State Theater, seating 10 times that number, felt like polite applause punctuated here and there by a smattering of whoops. While, for the most part, Purple Rain created a muddy mess on the stage, it did produce a few glimpses of rainbows. The cast has bright spots. Jared Howelton nails Morris Day, easily the audience favorite. Grace Yu, as Wendy, and Rachel Webb, Apollonia, are both terrific. The production looks good, and there's no denying it contains some great songs. They're by Prince, of course they're great. Design cleverly recreates First Avenue, complete with the kid's motorcycle. Ebony Williams' choreography adds some inventive touches, though the show overall feels light on movement for a dance-heavy legacy. Prince fans will still want to go, but please, don't bring your young people to this show. The behavior modeled by the kid and the end results for him and Apollonia are not messages we want to perpetuate. The saddest part of all of this is that they blew it. In a world filled with jukebox musicals and movie-to-Broadway musical adaptations, Prince deserved his place in the conversation. But this was it, and there isn't going to be another attempt. This was the chance and they squandered it. Purple Rain runs through November 23rd at the State Theater. From there, perhaps a Broadway transfer, but I wouldn't bet on it. This is going to be a little longer of a review as it's a very special play by Ebony Booth. Primary Trust debuted off-Broadway in 2023 and received the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2024. Over the last year, it has become one of the most produced plays in the country. Tuesday, October 21st, was my last day working as an Educational Support Professional, or ESP, in special ed at Maple Grove Senior High. Saying goodbye to those extraordinary kids was heartbreaking. And to be honest, I was regretting booking a show that night. But I said I would, and so I headed off to see Primary Trust at the Guthrie Theater. And, in ways small and large, I felt echoes of the emotions of the day reflected in the actions upon the stage. Kenneth, the main character, is clearly neurodivergent, possibly shaped by childhood trauma, possibly on the autism spectrum. The play never labels him. Kenneth struggles to communicate and fit in with the world around him, though his inner world is rich and expressive. His best friend, Bert, turns out to be imaginary, a version of the social worker who once helped him find stability after his mother's death when he was 10. When the real Bert left, Kenneth conjured another to take his place. Will Sturdivant plays Bert with warmth and humor, serving as Kenneth's brain's way of reminding him how to behave in a given circumstance and to use the coping skills he has learned. Bryce Michael Wood, as Kenneth, delivers a remarkable performance that shifts between two worlds: the shy, uncertain man others see in the world, and the confident, fluid self that exists in his mind when he is out, as he is most nights, with his best friend Bert at Wally's Tiki Bar, drinking Mai Tais. The transformation between these two versions of Kenneth is both relatable and impressive. It is a version of how we all are. I'm much more verbally dexterous in my mind than I am capable of being in real life, which is why I write words like dexterous into my reviews and then trip over them when trying to film these reviews. It's also a version of the thing we all do where we behave differently in different situations. We behave one way at work, another at home. With our children's friends around, we are different than we are hanging out with our friends we've known for decades. Sometimes, if we're having a day when we must be in two modes most different from one another, those can be draining days. Wood performs that scenario nightly, but on top of that, neither of those are who he is, so that's another layer. At the end of the play, Wood is clearly and understandably drained. It is a highly technical and emotional performance. Nubia Monks is luminous as Karina, a waitress who befriends Kenneth. Monks also portrays about 10 other characters, all of the various wait staff over the years at Wally's, as well as customers at the bank that Kenneth gets a job at. Most fly by in a minute or less, yet they all seem like distinct and fully developed characters. When I mentioned at the top that there were moments, both small and large, that echoed my day, one of those small ones is when Kenneth offers her his arm to escort her to a restaurant. It mirrored the interactions with one of the kids I worked with, who, when she needed a break, would wrap her arm through mine, and we would take a walk around the halls of the school as if we were in a Jane Austen book, taking a turn around the room. Seeing Kenneth and Karina in that same action broke me in the best way. Pierce Bunting rounds out the cast as Kenneth's rough-edged bosses. Both are rough or loud in distinct ways which one would assume would be ill-matched for Kenneth's temperament. But Bunting, while never ceasing to project those personalities, shows us that, like Kenneth, these characters have an external and an internal life, which aren't always what you would project onto them. Primary Trust shows us that we are all more than we show the outside world, that with grace and support, we can all surprise ourselves and those around us. which is one of the biggest lessons I learned in my time as an ESP. The play at times goes dark, but it never dwells there for long. This is a play not about trauma or hardship, but about how we overcome those things. It is very funny and deeply moving throughout. A reminder that connection, however fragile, is a vital component and makes us whole. It left me hopeful, grateful, and filled with joy, not the state in which I entered the theater that night. Primary Trust runs through November 16th at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. We'll put a link in the show notes to the Guthrie Theater. Don't miss your chance to see this Pulitzer Prize-winning play. A reminder as well that the Guthrie Theater actually has some really great deals on rush tickets. So if money is a barrier, check out those options on their website. It's a great way to see theater on a budget. Hey, remember when I told you to get tickets for Lizzie, the rock musical, before it sold out, and some of you didn't listen? Don't make that mistake again. My next review is for Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812, and the feeling of deja vu runs beyond this being another show that's going to sell out. Many of these are specific to me, but it's my show, so with Lizzie, I had to call and reschedule from the performance I was going to see when my son had to be taken to the ER with kidney stones. With Natasha, it was my back. In both cases, the theater squeezed me into what I'm fairly certain were sold-out performances. That may not seem like that big of a coincidence, but canceling and rescheduling a show is not at all normal for me. Most years, it never happens. This was twice in the span of a month. Then, there are the shows themselves, both taking place at smaller theaters that have a very distinct artistic identity. Open Eye is always brilliantly designed from a visual perspective, from sets and props to lighting and costumes. It is second to none. Theater Elysian is always musically brilliant. This is a case where these theaters' identities merged, both productions being of the highest level both musically and in design. One reason may be that for both shows, the director is also the production designer. Joel Sass at Open Eye, and Lindsay Fitzgerald for Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Then we have the fact that while both are musicals, neither are what one would call traditional musicals. Lizzie being a sort of rock musical drawing heavy inspiration from 70s and 80s era rock and punk sound. Natasha is accurately billed as an electro-pop opera. Both are filled with great songs and scores. Finally, both are based on very unlikely sources. Lizzie is about an alleged axe murderer, Lizzie Borden, and Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812 is adapted from a 70-page segment of the Russian novel and champion doorstop due to its epic length, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. The story centers on Natasha, who's engaged to Prince Andrei, who's away fighting in the Napoleonic Wars, and the womanizing Anatole, who's very much present and also very hot. Pierre, Andrei's friend and Anatole's brother-in-law, struggles with his own unhappy marriage and his search for meaning. It's passion, heartbreak, and existential angst, set to a pulsating score. Director and designer Lindsay Fitzgerald transforms the space into an immersive experience, with actors weaving through the audience and vibrant lighting by Lena Grendel that reveals hidden design elements. The music direction by Harrison Wade is first-rate, and the unnamed costume designer deserves credit for the stunning period costumes. The cast is flawless. Phineas Bynum as Pierre and Annabeth Baker as Natasha are magnetic. Bradley Johnson oozes charm as Anatole, and Christine Wade impresses juggling multiple roles as Pierre's wife, as an oboist in the band, and as the vocal director. Hawken Paul is hysterical as Balaga, a character included just for fun, all while playing the violin as part of the band. This is one of those rare productions like Lizzie where everything clicks: music, design, and performance. Get your tickets now. Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812 is dazzling, immersive, and absolutely unmissable. It runs through November 22nd, and only a few performances still have tickets left. This one's going to be another sellout. Don't miss it.
do I really have to go? Hard pressed to find a reason to brave the cold. So warm inside your cabin, give me just another moment. Wrapped inside the blanket of your body, the blanket of your body. Time to hit the open road. Loving arms await me, their domain knows me alone. Never a single question, 35 years full of holiday cheer, and still no invitation for my +1.
That does it for this week. Sorry, no interview, but hopefully these reviews will help guide you. We'll link to all of the theater companies discussed on this episode in the show notes so you can purchase tickets. Theater companies, there's still time to sign up for the upcoming sponsored holiday preview episode, which will come out the weekend before Thanksgiving. If you're interested in that or in sponsoring an upcoming episode of The Stages of Minnesota, you can email me at robdunkelberger@thestagesofmn.com. That's also where viewers can reach out if you have comments, questions, or suggestions of topics you'd like to see covered, or want to join the Stages of Minnesota +1 Club. Hey, if you see me out at a show, whether I'm walking well or not, don't be shy, say hi. Let's get a photo together and put you on the Stages of Minnesota. Thanks as always to Ryan Lee for the generous use of his music. Every note of music used on the Stages of Minnesota comes from his albums, which you can find at ryanlee.bandcamp.com. You can read all of my reviews on my blog at thestagesofmn.com. Whether you're watching the YouTube edition or listening to the podcast version, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed the show, please help spread the word. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review the show. Until next week, as Carol Jackson shrieked as her body hit the ice-cold water of Lake Minnetonka, go see a show!
'Cause it's all over but the shouting. Every soul needs light. My mind's been wasting away in the afternoon shade, out of sight. And I am not the pure and perfect one, but my branches are still bent toward the sun.